I'm one of the organizers for the March Against Monsanto. It's on May 25th at Holladay Park. We're going to get started around 11 with a march starting at noon. And we're going to have speakers, and it's going to be kid-friendly. We hope a couple thousand people show up.
Holladay Park is right next to the movie theater that sells a lot of popcorn, probably genetically modified popcorn.
That sounds like a great idea for Thomas Action.
What? Can you cut it? Like, what's the deal with GMO corn? Why is that such a an issue?
The truth is that your popcorn may not be GMO, but 80% of corn is GMO, and because popcorn is a specialty breed, whether or not popcorn itself is GMO, I couldn't speak to. But I can tell you that there's a variety of different types of genetically engineered corn, and they're all a really bad idea. One of the types of corn is Roundup Ready corn, and that corn exists. It was created so that it could tolerate a massive dose of herbicide. So depending on the statistics you read, the use of herbicide Roundup has gone up between 15 and 40% for the types of products that we're talking about that were created so that they could buy Roundup from Monsanto, buy the seeds from Monsanto, buy the Roundups from Monsanto. So it's a real kind of it's a real racket.
Yeah. And there's obviously other seeds that
BT
Monsanto.
Corn. Oh, yeah, BT corn is a really big deal. There's an insecticide called BT. I'm not going to try to say the long name of it because I just call it BT. And this particular insecticide works in that when a pest eats it, it causes their stomach to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And Monsanto and its partners, Syngenta, Dow, a variety of other folks like that, they thought that it would be more effective to actually insert the insecticide into the corn so that each corn kernel actually makes its own insecticide. That means that you cannot wash it off. When we eat BT corn, we're eating insecticide. If it makes bugs' stomach explode, do you think it's good for our stomach? The answer is no. So what we know actually around BT in particular is that it is very toxic to animals. A lot of times this bullshit out there is that, oh, these things are totally safe. Well, let me give you an example with BT cotton, where the same insecticide was put into cotton. In India, where almost 80 to 90% of the cotton is genetically engineered, BT cotton is very common. In the old days, after they'd harvested the cotton, they just let the farm animals, the sheep, the cows, everything, they said, hey, let's let them into the cotton fields, they'll eat it down to the ground, you know, extra food, save a little labor, no problem. What they've discovered is that if you let your animals eat the leftovers of the BT cotton, that it causes death. That hundreds of animals have died in India from eating BT cotton, when it used to be just fine for them to do that grazing. So there are many different cases to show that this stuff is toxic. Another thing to know is that a lot of BT corn and other genetically engineered products like soy is developed specifically to be fed to animals. So cows, pigs are eating this genetically engineered feed. And what they've discovered is that there's a huge increase in a variety of illnesses among these animals. And I've spoken to a number of hog farmers and other folks, and they switched their animals over to organic feed, and within a couple of weeks, their major health issues for their animals cleared up.
So Monsanto, do they also are they also involved with genetically enginered, like, tomatoes? I know there's tomatoes, and do they have anything to do with, like, the salmon? Or?
Right now, there was a genetically engineered tomato. It had fish genes added to it, and that was intended to make it more tolerant to colds.
Mm-hmm.
And they got that passed, and they started growing them. But what they discovered is that you can't really predict what's going to happen when you do this genetic engineering. You just kind of have to see what happens. It's sort of Frankenstein. And what they discovered is that the quality of the tomatoes, the texture, the experience of the consumer was that they didn't want to eat those tomatoes. So there's very little risk if you buy a tomato right now that it's genetically engineered because it's just not, they can't make money off of it right now. I'm sure they're trying to do some other genetic engineering with tomatoes, but in terms of massive problems, there's a few different products that you should be aware of. One is corn. 80% of corn grown is genetically engineered. Soy, 80 to 90%. Canola oil, cotton, which a lot of people don't understand that cottonseed oil is in a lot of food, particularly high processed food. Sugar beets is unless you're getting organic sugar and organic sugar beets, you're eating genetically engineered products through sugar.
Yeah.
So those are the main ones. There's other things to worry about too. There's a lot of the papaya grown out of Hawaii are genetically engineered. There's also a couple different types of squash that have been genetically engineered to reduce, I think, to a health issue like virus or something like that. The squash is actually one of the rare examples where there's a high volume of product that's out there that was created for some other reason than insecticides, herbicides, and pesticides. The vast majority of genetically engineered seeds are so that they can sell more chemicals.
And what are some of the, I guess, alternatives to genetically to the GMO seeds and
grow your own. I don't trust these big corporations to provide me with safe, healthy food, and neither should you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can grow it yourself, and if you do grow it yourself, you want to make sure that you're not using genetically engineered seeds, or in my opinion, seeds that are owned by companies that do genetic engineering, even if those particular seeds are not genetically engineered. Monsanto and their friends have bought up over 50% of the small seed companies in this country. So when you're buying seeds for your garden, you want to pay attention to where they come from and not support these big agribusiness companies with your money, and also you want to avoid genetically engineered seeds, which there are. Although, like I said, the bigger issues are these huge catch crops that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So if you can't grow your own, you can know your farmer. Where's your food come from? If you can buy local, that's great. Then you can actually have a conversation and know where that food is coming from. If you're avoiding big corporations and you're eating fresh local produce, you're doing pretty well right off of the bat. If you're eating highly processed foods, 70 to 80% of highly processed foods have genetically engineered ingredients in them.
Wow. So I guess you don't need to answer this necessarily, but I mean, personally, I'm against labeling because I think it's just a waste of energy.
I'm banning. That's
yeah.
Labeling versus banning. Well, first of all, one of the things that's a tough one, and what I do is I actually support labeling and I support banning because it's complicated. And a number of years ago, a high-ranking Monsanto representative said that if genetically engineered food is labeled, it'd be like putting a skull and crossbones on it. And I think that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a way in which labeling genetically engineered food is an incremental step towards what we really like to see.
Yeah.
The fact is that most people do not want to eat genetically engineered products. And if they actually had it in their face, if they could see a product that was labeled correctly as being genetically engineered and a product that was not, most people who've got any kind of financial stability are going to go for the product that's not genetically engineered. So I do think that labeling would probably be effective in shutting down or really taking a huge bite out of Monsanto and these other companies like Dow and Syngenta, because the fact is that people do not want genetic engineering, and the only reason that we allow it right now is because we are not informed.
So
I'm also in favor of a ban. And one of the things to know right now in Oregon, this is a really big issue. There's a Senate bill, SB 633. It's passed the Senate, and right now it's in the possibly, hopefully, turned down in the House of Representatives. level. But this is basically Oregon's version of the Monsanto Protection Act, and it would forbid local jurisdictions from banning GMOs, which is really important because there are several counties, Jackson County among them, Josephine County, a couple other counties, where farmers have come together to exclude GMO seed from their county, and they've got it on the ballot, and this is an effort to say that those local jurisdictions would not have the right to do that. So that's a very big deal.
Definitely. Yeah, and I was just going to get to the like here in Oregon, I just read that community supported agriculture is there's at least 8, I think, I don't know, farms or community supported agriculture businesses or something, getting signing up with the food benefits program here, and that's like a new thing, and
yes,
you know, in a way that
yep, what you're talking about, what you may be talking about, there's a lot of different programs that are really great. One of them is to allow people's SNAP cards, their Oregon Trail money, to be used at farmers markets and other sites to purchase local farms.
And for any of you who are watching this who don't know what Oregon Trail is, that's kind of like the food benefits card that's here.
They used to call it food stamps, now they call it SNAP in most places, or the Oregon Trail card, and that's a huge economic impact. We're talking about millions of dollars of funds that if we can allow local farmers to benefit from that purchasing power, is a huge shot in the arm to the local economy. It's really important, and it also gives the low-income consumer a choice as to whether or not they want to buy from agribusiness or if they want to buy from a local farmer. And one example of where that choice is critical is with genetically engineered soy and baby formula. Right now, the WIC program allows low-income mothers to buy formula, but the only brands that they allow are genetically engineered baby food, and that's just criminal.
It is, certainly. So, what can people do to help, and how can people get involved with the march this year, and just throughout the year in general?
May 25th, save the date, and I would encourage everyone to start making signs and banners, and if you like to dress up, fun costumes. I know that I'm going to be a beneficial pollinator and be part of a pollinator posse. People are considering autonomous action. That might include going into your local grocery store and put DIY, do-it-yourself labeling of genetically engineered products like Kellogg's cereals, which have genetically engineered products.
There's a Kellogg's factory right down the street from here too, and a craft factory that's nearby. So
we don't have to go far. We don't, the headquarters of Monsanto is not in Portland, but that's not going to keep us from taking this to their door and saying enough is enough.
Yeah, and Tony the Tiger is definitely not all he's cracked up to be.
You gotta find someone in a tiger suit, man.
So where can people go, like, online, and what can people do to get involved throughout the year? And
there's certainly a Facebook page
for the march
for this event for May 25th. If you want to mark your calendar, there's also plans for July 4th. Freedom from Monsanto, I like to think of it. There's going to be people joining 4th of July parades around the country with their anti-GMO message. Locally, there's a group called GMO Free Portland. They're largely focused on helping folks understand more about GMOs and how to get GMOs out of your diet and out of your life. I'm part of a group called GMO Free Oregon. We're focused on a real variety of issues, from getting ballot measures to ban and label genetically engineered food, supporting the banning of GMO seed at the county level in southern Oregon and in other locations, fighting the canola threat in the Willamette Valley, and just generally being a voice for promoting a GMO-free Oregon and a GMO-free world eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, that's good. And there's a lot of people who are they support GMOs, and they'll claim that GMOs are good because they'll help feed all the starving poor people in Africa.
I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Most genetic engineering is not done to make food more nutritious or to otherwise feed the poor. It is done to make money, plain and simple. It is done to sell more Roundup. It is done to promote and line the pockets of Monsanto, Dow, and Syngenta. There is no proof whatsoever that GMOs are actually contributing to feeding people at any kind of global scale. In fact, there was once a claim that GMO crops were going to do better and produce more per acre, and in some studies that has been shown to be successful for 1 or 2 seasons perhaps in certain circumstances, but after that the productivity takes a nosedive. And in fact, GMO crops are not not producing any more per acre on average than traditional conventional crops. It's just bullshit.
All right.
If we want to feed people, we should stop wasting so much food, and we should look at our distribution systems. We don't need to grow more food. We need to make food more accessible.
Yeah, definitely. And it's about food freedom.
Yes, seed freedom, food freedom. There is one other thing that I want to seed out there. There is a conference in Seattle, August 1st and 2nd, called Justice Begins with Seeds, really focused on seed sovereignty and a lot of the issues from the seed up regarding stopping genetic engineering and stopping the big agribusiness that is poisoning all of us.
Well, so you said seed sovereignty. So for people who, like, there's some people who, George W. Bush didn't understand what sovereignty was. He was our president a few terms ago.
Can I talk more about seed sovereignty?
So what is sovereignty, let alone seed sovereignty? How can seeds be sovereign? Explain that.
Well, for literally thousands of years, farmers, native populations have saved seed each year. How do you get seed? You collect it from food that you've grown before. And seed is seen as a community, well, it's of value to the community as a whole. Not any one person owns seed. You might have your little stock of seeds, but you don't own all beet seeds because you have some beet seeds, right? And what has happened is this patenting of seeds is that corporations are saying that seeds and the right to grow things is something that they can patent and control. So they're taking away the right of a farmer to have seeds, to have their own. They're saying that you have to buy them from them and that you can't save seeds. And I would love to refer people to a variety of sources. The seed sovereignty issue is very big in Mexico. There was literally hundreds of different types of corn that have been developed by native populations, all these different types, and the contamination of genetic engineering has wiped out a lot of those strains and very much limited the different types of seed available to farmers. The traditional varieties are not even, some of them have been lost because of the invasion, the corporate invasion of Monsanto and other companies involved in genetic engineering. I would like to say that I don't feel qualified to speak as any kind of expert to seed sovereignty, but that there's folks out there that can tell you a lot about it. Vandana Shiva speaks to it quite a bit, as well as a number of Native American activists that are growing corn right now on reservations on their traditional lands to keep these strains of corn alive.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into, patenting and how,
right,
corporations have rights to the certain strains of DNA and
they are patenting life and the source of life, and it's just unacceptable. It is corporatism just gone too damn far, and we're not going to tolerate it. It's just not okay. The line has been crossed.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, thank you very much, Kelly.
Show up.
Yeah.
All your representatives, get in the streets, do it yourself labeling, grow your own, share food with people. We can't eat money.